Can you walk us through Kennedy Street in the 90s, where you grew up,
That's right.
versus Kennedy Street in 2026, or even Petworth for that matter, right?
That's right.
Through your lens, describe, your street growing up, teenage years, early childhood, to people who might not be familiar with Kennedy Street uptown.
Yeah, so like up Kennedy Street, everybody used to refer to it as KDY. And, predominantly Black and brown families, actually. It was at a time where, there was a go-go song. It was like, don't ride through the KDY. And the reason why is because we had a lot of gun violence, that we went through, that we lost people. People lost people. We lost people on our block, young people, right? Like, you're losing people your age who you look across the street. And I remember we lost this guy named Sean, who all of us, all the young girls, we all thought Sean was like the cutest guy ever, by the way. And so when they were like, Sean got killed, we were like, what? Like, what happened to Sean?
Yeah,
no, literally, that's how we were. We were like, not Sean, like, truly.
That guy can go, but not Sean.
No. But you know what I mean? Like, he was like the cool guy on the block that all of us were like,
you're a young woman. Things affect you at different stages of your life.
So like, it's just like we lost people,
How did that affect you?
One of my neighbors, like her son, she lost 2 sons to gun violence, yet she's like the sweetest woman in the world. She's the person who bought me my comforter and sat in like a whole Marshall's gift bag when I went off to college, right? And so I think the backdrop of it is like Kennedy Street dealt with gun violence and public safety issues, but we also had we were also like a family, right? Like my neighbor was Mr. and Mrs. Wallace, who were like retired, like agent in place. Mr. Wallace had this silver Cadillac, pristine, like kept in the best shape, walked outside every day, sat in the Cadillac for an hour, like just turned it on. That's all he did. Went back in the house. Like, that was his day. And if he moved it, you knew not to like park in Mr. Wallace's spot. Like my neighbor next door was Mr. Taylor, who was like a WMATA bus driver, which we thought was the cool, like he had the WMATA uniform on. Now I realize he always had heavy cologne. I'd be like, why does Mr. Taylor smell like that? But like, you know what I mean? Like it was one of those things where, and my 7th grade history teacher like actually lived across the street.
That's dope.
You got my mom who's a postal worker. So you have these like strong, like, middle class Black families who are trying to survive and thrive in this city. Like my mom is, graduated from Cardozo, never graduated from college, but like was able to build a life for herself. Right. So like, that was a really part of DC. And then we also had the fact that we were losing some of our friends to gun violence like every single day, whether it was on 1st and Kennedy or 5th and Kennedy, 7th and Kennedy, 8th and Kennedy. Like each part of Kennedy had their own, sort of issues, and we were beefing, people were beefing around all neighborhoods, which now to this day, I'm always like, we were beefing over neighborhoods that we didn't even own, y'all. Like we lost lives, people fighting over street names that we don't even own. And then you look at Kennedy Street now, and I'm so proud, it's been developed so much. I personally, as council member, took Kennedy Street on because I don't like the idea that all we could have was carry outs and liquor stores. You know what I mean? I was like, we're so much more than just carry out and liquor stores. And so we worked really hard to like revitalize Kennedy Street. Like now we have,
shout out to La Coupe.
Yeah, we got La Coupe coffee on,
that's my spot right there.
You can get coffee.
Little bagelitos.
You got HR Records, like Charles Chavis in his store every day Sunday. Charles across the street, like giving out ice cream, like cultivating. You got Ancho Pizza. Like now Kennedy Street is a place where you can come have coffee, where you could get some pizza, get some ice cream, go get an old record. Like that's what we really were, But I had to fight government to make that happen. Like I literally had to get Office of Tax and Revenue, DCRA, now DOB. Like we had all these vacant and blighted properties. We actually had like one person who had bought up all the properties on Kennedy Street. And was just sitting on it because it was just like equity for them. And we pressed them out like, why are you sitting on these properties? Like you got our community looking vacant, blighted, and all this stuff, and you collecting dollars. So we were like, Tax and Revenue, you need to like up the taxes on this person. Like, you need to come out. They're not keeping their property looking good. He ended up selling off like majority of those properties, and then people bought them who actually developed housing, who actually put retail in them. So that's what I mean by, like when people think about public safety, they're only thinking about MPD, but it's just like, no, every agency is responsible for public safety. Like we got graffitis on the wall. I'm like, DPW, can we get this off? Like this isn't representative of our community. And so now that we see Kennedy Street as a much safer community and a more vibrant corridor, we also want to make sure that the housing that gets built on it isn't housing that people can't afford to live in, because we're not building it just for new people to be here, but we're also building it for neighbors who lived here their whole lives to be able to afford to stay here now and enjoy the amenities that they always and the progress they knew Kennedy could afford. And that's the balance that I think is necessary. Like let's grow our communities. Mm-hmm. Let's invest in our communities. Let's create vibrant corridors like Upshur.
Sure, yeah.
But let's also make sure that we preserve, our Black seniors and who deserve to stay here, like preserve family, and also make it so that our generation get to benefit from like the city that we have helped grow and cultivate, and don't have to make the decision to move and live out in Maryland or live out in Virginia or live in other states just because they're more affordable than our city.
I love it. Yeah, I think it's really important to state that like your experience in the 90s in Kennedy Street and being involved with the progress in 2026, and your firsthand experience with like tragedy and trauma and seeing a lot of that gun violence and understanding that, because people do bring up like crime and how we address it. And I think that, you're someone that has experienced, you've seen it up close, and you have experience as a prosecutor, you understand the system. You have like, you're not just someone just saying words, you know.
I've been on all sides. Like I've been in a community like strained with gun violence and understanding the trauma, like it's lifetime trauma that you go through when you hear when you hear gunshots at night, when you're not sure if those gunshots hit anybody, and if you're not sure if the gunshots that you heard hit someone, and if it hit someone you knew close, those are just things that you grapple with and deal with. Like my mom's like, all right, if y'all gonna walk to the corner store, I want to make sure you're safe. Like having to decide, is it safe for our child to walk to the corner store? In other neighborhoods, no one's worried if their child is walking to the grocery store, right? So I've always felt like, and even when I became a prosecutor, was because I felt like we need safe communities. And I also felt like we needed people to understand where our young people are coming from and ways in which we could intervene and actually rehabilitate and try to save them before they become adults that then perpetuate even worse crimes later on. It starts somewhere. And if we can, when we see it start, we can also intervene and help it stop. And so I always tell people like enforcement work and accountability is like critical for public safety. It's a non-negotiable. But intervention work and that prevention work is just as important, right? Because if we can get young people back in schools, like address chronic absenteeism, right? Then we got young people engaged in school. They're not on the streets. They're not participating in very serious crimes. Like every time we see a young person who's participating in really like serious, like I'm talking carjackings and things, look at their attendance records, you'll see chronic absenteeism. They miss like days of school, So the prevention work has to happen alongside the intervention work, has to happen alongside the accountability. And because as a former prosecutor, I had to do all three of those things. I get a chance to see it. But a couple of weeks ago, I know two 12-year-olds were killed. And I went to both of their funerals, but one of the young guys, Milo, who was killed, I went to his funeral, and I had never seen a 12-year-old like in a casket. But I like felt as a leader, like you need to see it, because you need to see the reality of what it means if you fail these young people. Like this young boy who was just beautiful young boy, had so much potential. His family was obviously hurt. I also saw like young people coming into the funeral, I'm talking like 50 young people, like walking past the casket, seeing their friend like in a casket, and I was just traumatized in myself of just being like, dang, this is another generation being traumatized by gun violence, and they don't even know how it's impacting them. But the normalization of it is happening to them even right now as they attend their friend's funeral. But I until this day, I'm still traumatized by like seeing this young man in his casket. But I felt as a leader, I needed to see it because I wanted it to be the reminder, like it's now pierced in my mind. It's the reminder that if you don't show up and do better for our city and actually invest in our young people and stop the guns that are being trafficked into our city and do the enforcement work, this is the result. And it is our responsibility when that happens. It does stop at us and the systems we put in place to actually create systems of accountability and intervention and prevention.